They called this woman a queen, not because she was born into royalty, but because she led one of the fiercest rebellions that the Caribbean had ever seen. And if you've never heard her name, then of course, that's not by accident. Meet Mary Thomas. She was born in St. Croix in the mid-1800s, when the island was still under Danish rule. On paper, slavery had been abolished in 1848. But here's the truth. Life for Black people didn't really change. They were still tied to plantations, paid next to nothing, still treated like they were disposable. And by the 1870s, people were fed up. Wages were too low, conditions were brutal, and the promises of freedom were just empty words. That's when Mary Thomas, along with two other women, Agnes and Matilda, decided enough was enough. In October 1878, they led what became known as the Fireburn Rebellion. It wasn't some small protest, it was an uprising. Workers set fire to over 50 plantations and sugar mills. Government buildings burned. The skies over St. Croix glowed red with smoke and fire. This was more than destruction, it was a message. If freedom was just going to be lip service, they'd burn the whole system down before living on their knees. And here's what makes it even more powerful. This wasn't just men with weapons. This rebellion was driven by women. Mary Thomas and her sisters in the fight stood at the front, organizing, pushing people forward, daring to confront an empire. But you already know how empires respond. The Danish military cracked down hard. Dozens were killed, hundreds were arrested. Mary Thomas herself, she was captured and sent all the way to Denmark, the colonizers' homeland, where she was thrown into prison. They thought locking her away far from the Caribbean would erase her. But it didn't, because her defiance outlived her body. Today in the Virgin Islands, Queen Mary is remembered as the face of Fireburn. Murals, statues, songs. She became a symbol of resistance, especially for Black women who were too often written out of the story. Because she wasn't just surviving colonial rule, she was fighting it head on. She proved that rebellion could come from the very people that the system dismissed as powerless. So when you hear Queen Mary, don't think crown and throne. Think fire and freedom. Think about a woman who stared down an empire and said, "If this is the freedom you're giving me, I'll burn it to the ground and build my own." That's her legacy, and it's one worth saying out loud. Say her name. Queen Mary Thomas.